Nature carries beauty beyond imagination yet holds power that destroys without warning in a single moment. A terrifying storm in Africa proved this truth when lightning struck a herd of elephants in the open plain. These mighty creatures that symbolize wisdom and strength fell lifeless in the blink of an eye that night. The ground shook, the sky cracked, and what followed was silence more haunting than the thunder itself. Scientists and conservationists rushed to the scene unable to believe what their eyes were witnessing. Families of elephants, young and old, lay scattered together as if frozen in their final moments of life. The tragedy revealed how even the strongest animals remain vulnerable to the forces of the earth itself. For centuries elephants have survived hunters and droughts but could not resist the fury of one storm. This story reminds us that protecting wildlife also means respecting the unpredictability of nature. Stay with us as we unfold the heartbreaking details of a night when lightning stole giants of the wild. 1. Gathering storm over the savannah. The African sky, once clear, now darkened with heavy clouds rolling in from the horizon like mountains. Birds flew lower to the ground, their wings cutting sharp arcs as if running from invisible shadows. The air grew dense and heavy, pressing down on the land with an unshakable weight of coming fury. Whispers of thunder echoed across the distant hills, shaking the ground like ancient drums of war. Lightning flashed far away, splitting the sky into jagged scars of blinding white fire. The wind howled through the tall grasses, bending them as if bowing to a mighty unseen force. Animals stirred nervously, antelopes darted, and zebras stamped as panic spread through the plains. Elephants paused their grazing, lifting trunks high into the charged air, smelling the danger close. The matriarch's eyes reflected the shifting storm, wisdom etched deep in her gaze of survival. The savannah transformed into a stage of chaos, a theater awaiting its darkest and final act. Each rumble of thunder crept closer, crawling like serpents across the earth beneath their feet. The blue of the sky turned black, swallowing every trace of sunlight like a curtain closing. Distant trees bent and groaned as the force of nature clawed and tore at their mighty trunks. Rain began to drizzle, tiny drops hissing against the parched earth like whispers of despair. Birds abandoned the sky altogether, hiding in thorn bushes as if fleeing certain death. The elephants gathered together, their giant bodies swaying in anxious silence of fear. Electricity tingled in the air, sharp enough to sting the skin and set hearts racing fast. The world stood still for a moment, holding its breath before the storm unleashed its terror. The herd's fate was sealed in this quiet, their final journey written by nature's merciless hand. And above them, the heavens ready to strike that would burn history into the earth itself. 2. Elephants sensed the coming danger. The matriarch raised her head, her ears wide as sails, catching every vibration in the stormy air. Thunder roared again, louder this time, cracking the sky open like stone breaking under force. The herd pressed closer, their massive frames trembling though they were the giants of the land. Young calves hid beneath their mothers, touching their legs for comfort as fear pulsed in their eyes. The grass rippled with the wind, its whispers sounding like voices warning of imminent doom. Each step forward felt cautious, as if the ground itself held secrets of death beneath its dust. Lightning stretched fingers across the clouds, painting the heavens with fire and violent beauty. The matriarch's trunk swayed slowly, her instincts screaming that something unnatural was near. Other animals scattered toward the river, seeking safety in waters that promised no refuge. The elephants stood firm, their bond strong, but fear crackled like electricity between them. Storm clouds swallowed the horizon, devouring every inch of hope the daylight once offered. The air hissed with power, invisible sparks crawling across the plain waiting to strike down. Rain thickened, drops falling like stones on their broad backs, soaking them in cold dread. The sky was alive with chaos, as if gods themselves fought wars above the living earth. Each calf whimpered softly, sounds almost lost in the rising roar of the coming tempest. The matriarch stomped the ground, her warning call echoing across the valley of fear. But the storm was merciless, beyond the control of even the wisest of nature's leaders. The lightning drew closer with every strike, setting the night on fire before its final blow. 3. Thunder like war drums in the sky. The thunder did not simply roll, it exploded, shaking the land as if the earth itself was cracking apart. Each boom echoed across valleys and plains, frightening every creature that relied on silence to live. The elephants shifted uneasily, their heavy feet pressing deep prints into the wet, trembling soil. Their eyes widened with each crack, memories of storms past carved into their ancient bloodlines. This was no ordinary storm, it was a gathering of fury, nature's anger made alive and unchained. The sky lit up in bursts, brighter than the sun, for only a second before plunging back into blackness. Every flash revealed the herd in stark white, frozen like statues waiting to be judged by the heavens. Even predators who ruled the night crouched low, surrendering to a force greater than their teeth. The air split in pieces with each strike, sharp as knives, making the savannah echo with violence. The calves cried out, their small voices lost in the thunder that swallowed every sound whole. The matriarch trumpeted, her call piercing the storm, trying to gather strength within her family. Lightning touched the far hills, setting small fires in the dry grass that hissed and smoked. The storm was no longer distant, it stood above them, breathing down their necks like a hunter. The elephants clung to each other's presence, a fortress of flesh against the invisible wrath above. Each ear flicked in terror, each trunk quivered in uncertainty, each heart raced in fear. The great storm seemed alive, its fury aimed not at the land but directly at the living herd. The sky was a battlefield, sparks clashing in endless fury, drowning the world in chaos. The herd could only wait, their fates tied to the storm that chose them as its unwilling audience. With each crash of thunder, the end drew closer, unseen but felt in every beat of their hearts. And soon, the sky would answer its own roaring with fire that would never be forgotten. 4. Lightning crawls across the clouds, jagged lines of light split the sky, weaving like burning snakes that hunted across the heavens. Each strike carved glowing scars above, a reminder that no creature was safe from its fury. The elephants stared upward, their ancient souls sensing the storm's deadly intent upon them. Flashes turned night into day for seconds, revealing terror in every eye of the gathered herd. The matriarch rumbled, deep and low, urging the herd to stay close and unbroken in their fear. Electric fire licked across the clouds, searing the heavens with a blinding brilliance of doom. The air itself became a weapon, charged with invisible currents that made skin crawl and tremble. Calves stumbled in fear, their small legs weak beneath the growing storm's savage roar. Every flash brought a new shadow, each darker and more haunting than the one before. Even the earth shivered beneath the bolts that clawed at the horizon with their furious reach. The herd huddled together, giant bodies pressing shoulder to shoulder in desperate unity. The matriarch's ears stood wide, every nerve alive to the danger swirling above their heads. The grass bent flat against the ground, as if bowing low before the power of the sky. No place offered safety, no tree strong enough, no hill high enough to hide from wrath. The storm was not passing, it was hunting, circling the herd like a predator stalking prey. Their fate was sealed not by claws or teeth but by the unchained violence of the heavens. Each second stretched longer, each strike closer, each flash sharper and brighter than before. The air screamed, the clouds roared, and the herd trembled beneath the weight of destiny. The storm had chosen them, and the lightning would strike not once but with vengeance untold. 5. The herd's silent vigil despite the chaos around them. The elephants grew still, locked in a silence filled with dread. The matriarch stood tall, her body a shield, her gaze fixed on the endless black above. Around her, the herd pressed close, a living circle bound by blood, fear, and survival. No sound left them, no trumpet, no cry, only breaths heavy and trembling in the storm's roar. The storm raged, yet within the herd there was a pause, a fragile calm before the fire. Each eye glowed faint in the flashes, each soul whispering prayers to the heavens unseen. The calves leaned into their mothers, drawing warmth from bodies that trembled under the rain. Every elephant stood like a pillar, rooted by fear, yet refusing to scatter in panic. This was instinct, a knowledge written in time, that together they faced death with dignity. The rain drenched their hides, turning dust into mud, but their circle held strong as stone. The thunder grew heavier, striking nearer, as if circling closer to the heart of their vigil. Each strike grew faster, no longer a warning, but the sharp breath before an execution. The matriarch raised her trunk high, as though calling the ancestors to guide them now. Still the herd made no sound, their silence a monument of courage before destruction. Even the grasses stilled, pressed flat by the weight of rain and the violence of the sky. It was as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for the blow that would shatter peace. The silence inside the herd clashed with the fury outside, a fragile balance of life and death. Every second of stillness was stolen, every breath borrowed from fate's cruel hand. And then the sky leaned low, ready to strike the silent herd with its merciless flame. 6. The sky splits open, the black clouds gathered tighter, like fists closing to crush the land beneath their weight. Bolts slashed the heavens, tearing them wide open with blinding white fire that burned the eyes. The elephants shuddered as the air itself cracked, too heavy to breathe, too sharp to ignore. Every flash turned the storm into a living beast, its teeth gnashing in fire and thunder. The herd shuffled uneasily, shifting in mud that sucked at their massive, trembling feet. Calves stumbled, their cries drowned by the thunder that split across the sky like gunfire. The matriarch rumbled low, but even her call seemed small under the storm's endless roar. The horizon burned with light as if the world itself had been set aflame by the heavens. Each strike landed closer, the sky lowering, pressing its violence against the earth. The elephants smelled the metallic air, thick with electricity, sharp enough to sting tongues. Even their great tusks seemed alive with a charge, glowing faint in the flashing storm. The herd pressed together, but unity could not shield them from fire falling from the sky. Rain poured in sheets, drenching hides, turning the ground into pools of trembling mud. Every second carried the weight of death, every moment stretched longer than the last. The storm's growl no longer echoed far but coiled directly above, ready to unleash itself. No predator stalked them, no rival threatened them. This enemy was the sky itself. The elephant stood at the mercy of forces that no strength or tusk could ever resist. The clouds bent lower, dragging lightning closer, hungrier, sharper with each flash. And then the silence before the strike grew, the sky holding its final breath before attack. 7. The matriarch's warning. The matriarch lifted her trunk high, her body trembling yet unbroken in her resolve. She rumbled a warning deep within her chest, a sound older than memory itself. Her eyes flashed in lightning's glare, fierce with knowledge, heavy with dread unspoken. The herd felt her call, leaning into her voice, their last hope against the storm's fury. Every elephant's ears spread wide, catching her sound, listening through terror's veil. The calves clung tighter to mothers, their small frames shivering in endless rain. The matriarch's tusks gleamed like pale swords, glowing in each burst of fire from above. Her stance was wide, her feet planted deep in the mud, a fortress in flesh and will. She knew the danger, though words were not hers, only warnings written in instinct. The storm did not slow, it circled, hunting, the lightning waiting for its perfect mark. Her call deepened, rolling through the herd like waves against stone, uniting them. Still the thunder rolled, drowning her voice, but the herd felt its meaning in their bones. She turned her massive head upward, as if speaking directly to the roaring sky. Her body trembled, yet her spirit stood, the eternal guide of her people even in doom. The lightning carved the heavens above her, answering with fire that split the clouds. Her warning was not of escape, for there was no escape, but of courage in the storm. The herd did not scatter, they stood firm, bound by her call, unwilling to break apart. The matriarch's cry was defiance, the last stand of giants against fire they could not fight. And the storm listened, readying its judgment upon the herd that dared resist in unity. 8. The fire from the sky. A single bolt ripped the night in half, brighter than the sun, hotter than 1,000 fires. It crashed with a roar that shattered the air, striking the earth in blinding, deadly rage. The herd recoiled, eyes wide with horror, as fire walked down from the heavens. The bolt split trees into splinters, the ground exploding beneath the weight of its strike. The earth shook with the blow, mud spraying in violent waves across the drenched savanna. The elephants screamed, trumpeting terror, their calls piercing even the thunder's roar. Smoke curled upward, black and bitter, the scent of death rising with the storm's heat. Calves stumbled in terror, legs collapsing, bodies pressed against mothers for safety. The matriarch bellowed, her voice swallowed in the chaos of fire and sound. The lightning came again, relentless, seeking flesh, tusk, and blood to claim. Shadows leapt and danced across the storm, painting terror into every frantic glance. The herd ran in place, shifting, but there was nowhere to run, no path to salvation. Their heavy bodies shook as the ground vibrated with each explosive strike of fire. The air was alive, electric, screaming against their hides, crawling like unseen serpents. Another tree shattered, bursting into flames that hissed against pouring rain. The herd cried out again, a chorus of fear, a hymn to survival drowned in chaos. Every eye reflected the storm's fire, a mirror of fate that none could turn from. The fire from the sky did not choose randomly, it aimed, it sought, it struck with will. And its will was death, a judgment waiting to fall upon the unprotected herd. 9. The circle of fear. The elephants pressed tighter, forming a living circle, bodies guarding bodies. Calves stood at the center, hidden beneath towering walls of trembling flesh. Each elephant leaned into the other, hearts beating fast, breath steaming in rain. The circle swayed, a fortress of flesh against a storm that broke all fortresses. Lightning split the sky, but the herd did not break, their unity their only hope. Calves cried faintly, muffled by the thunder that shook the very marrow of bone. Their mothers rumbled low, promises of protection though fear strangled them too. The storm circled, hunting, as if it knew the herd's pattern, their desperate stand. The sky lit again, brighter, sharper, each flash nearer, hungrier for flesh and life. The elephant screamed again, not in anger but in the agony of waiting for death. The circle quivered, a trembling monument of unity against unchained nature. 10. The strike of death, then it came, the bolt that would end not one but many in a single breath. A blinding spear of fire tore down, smashing into the heart of the herd. The ground exploded, dirt and mud flying, as the lightning split life in two. Elephants screamed in agony, their cries echoing louder than thunder itself. The bolt struck flesh and tusk, burning hair, searing hides, killing without mercy. Bodies collapsed, legs folding, heavy weight crashing into the flooded ground. Calves shrieked, trapped beneath the falling bodies of giants they trusted. The matriarch roared one last time, her voice shattering the storm in defiance. Smoke rose from her tusks, her great form trembling before crumpling into death. The herd broke, cries wild, the circle shattered by the fire that claimed their kin. The lightning had chosen its victims, a single strike felling many as one. Burnt scent filled the air, acrid, thick, clinging even to the rain-soaked earth. The sky roared approval, thunder booming as if laughing at the slaughter. Survivors stumbled, eyes wide, ears flapping in wild disbelief of the loss. Calves cried endlessly, their small trunks reaching for mothers already gone. The rain poured heavier, but no water could cleanse the scorch of death. 11. Ashes of giants. The storm did not rest after its strike, it raged louder, hungrier, demanding more. The herd stumbled, their circle broken, their cries lost in the endless crashing sky. The dead lay heavy in the mud, bodies smoking, tusks glowing faint with fire. Calves pressed against lifeless mothers, nudging, crying, but no warmth returned. The matriarch's silence thundered louder than the storm, her fall breaking all hope. Every survivor felt the weight, their hearts pounding in rhythm with the rain. The sky turned red in each flash, as if blood itself now painted the heavens. Elephants shifted in despair, tusks dragging as if too heavy to hold upright. The ground steamed, a battlefield of ash where life had been moments before. Every breath carried smoke, the stench of burned flesh choking the savanna. The herd's eyes glowed in the storm's light, wide, filled with fear and grief. Calves cried again, their small bodies trembling against death's shadow. The survivors trumpeted weakly, voices thin beneath the roaring heavens. Rain poured endlessly, drowning the field yet failing to cleanse the loss. The lightning circled once more, a predator refusing to abandon its prey. 12. Thunder's judgment. The thunder rolled louder, no longer distant but bursting within the air itself. It cracked above the herd, shaking ears, rattling tusks, vibrating deep within bones. The elephants flinched with every roar, their bodies jerking like prey before death. The heavens no longer seemed far, they crouched directly above, pressing downward. Every clap was a hammer, beating life into fear, drowning hope in vibration. Calves pressed lower, hiding under bellies, ears flat against skulls in dread. The matriarch was gone, her voice silenced, and no call rose to replace it. The herd shuffled in confusion, leaderless, bound only by terror and instinct. The sky lit again, fire lashing across clouds, twisting into serpents of light. Every flash froze their bodies, eyes wide, waiting for the next fatal strike. The thunder mocked them, cruel and endless, a drumbeat of their approaching doom. Rain struck harder, stinging hides, bouncing like stones against their soaked skin. The earth shook with each roar, puddles trembling, mud splashing in waves. Some elephants trumpeted weakly, voices rising but swallowed instantly. Others stood silent, too numb for sound, their grief choking their cries. The storm had become their executioner, and every moment was a sentence. The sky bore no mercy, only judgment, endless, consuming, final. Each second felt like a lifetime, stretched thin by terror's grip. The thunder did not relent, it grew, its voice shaking the world apart. And beneath it, the herd quivered, shadows awaiting the next bolt of fate. 13. Shadows in the rain thickened, falling in sheets so heavy it turned the world into blur. Shapes twisted in water, shadows stretched long, bending across the field. The herd saw figures that were not there, ghosts of their fallen among them. Every shadow danced like spirits, rising in flashes, vanishing with thunder. The calves pressed tighter, their eyes reflecting fear and strange visions. The living and the dead seemed one, rain weaving them together as one. Tusks gleamed pale through curtains of water, like swords raised in the dark. Bodies swayed, unsure if they moved or if shadows pulled them along. The earth became a mirror of water, reflecting the sky's fire and rage. In every reflection, elephants saw themselves dying again and again. The storm blurred the line between flesh and spirit, life and memory. Every raindrop struck with weight, hammering the ground like nails. The herd shifted uneasily, haunted by shapes around and within them. Mothers cried low, voices trembling, reaching calves that barely listened. Fear had bent their minds, shadows turning grief into madness. Every flash made the rain glow, silver curtains hiding death behind. Each clap tore through them, scattering thought, stealing clarity. The herd saw not only lightning, but faces of their fallen burned in air. The storm was not only killing, it was haunting, taunting, breaking. And the rain poured on, drowning them in shadows they could not escape. 14. The calf's cries, the smallest voices pierced the storm, sharp against the endless roar. Calves screamed, their thin trunks reaching for warmth now gone. They stumbled in mud, legs folding, slipping beneath the heavy rain. Some pressed against lifeless bodies, unaware they were cold forever. Others cried for mothers who still lived but could not protect them now. Their shrieks cut deep, sharper than thunder, harder than lightning itself. The herd stirred at each sound, but no comfort could silence despair. Every calf's cry echoed across the storm, repeating louder with each flash. It was the sound of innocence drowned in forces no tusk could resist. The mothers bent low, trumpeting weakly, pulling calves against them. Still the cries did not stop, louder, longer, piercing the hearts of all. The calves trembled endlessly, small bodies breaking in grief. They did not understand death but felt its weight crushing them. Their trunks wrapped around air, seeking warmth that wasn't there. Each call rose like smoke, filling the storm with sorrow's fire. Even the thunder seemed muted beneath their endless cries. The herd shuddered at the sound, their unity cracked by grief. The storm feasted on the helpless, dragging their voices into the night. The calf's cries became the chorus of the storm, sharp and eternal. And in them, the world heard the tragedy of giants undone. 15. Giants in collapse, the great bodies of the herd staggered, their weight dragging them down. Rain turned the ground into pits, sucking feet into endless drowning mud. The elephants swayed, tusks lowering, their strength fading into despair. Every step became heavier, a burden too great for even giants to bear. The storm seemed to push them downward, pressing with invisible weight. Bodies leaned, shoulders slumping, ears sagging against the relentless rain. Some collapsed entirely, falling with thundering crashes against the earth. The ground quaked beneath their falls, each impact echoing death's approach. Others stood trembling, barely upright, legs shaking like fractured trees. Their strength had been legends, but legends crumble beneath fire and storm. The herd's unity faltered as exhaustion dragged them lower into mud. Calves stumbled beneath falling giants, crying louder with every crash. The matriarch's absence burned heavier, her strength now only memory. Tusks buried themselves in dirt as heads dropped, eyes dim with sorrow. Every collapse was another death, another soul stolen by the storm. The herd shrank with each fall, their circle reduced to fragments of survival. Rain washed across their backs, carrying mud and blood into rivers. Even their trumpets sounded broken, hollow, weak against thunder's roar. The giants who once ruled the land were brought low by sky's fire. And the storm laughed, tearing them apart with every breath of its fury. 16. Lightning's hunger. The lightning did not strike once, it struck again, relentless. Each bolt fell closer, brighter, hotter, sharper than the last before it. It walked across the sky like a beast hunting its chosen prey. The elephants trembled beneath its glare, tusks glowing faint in sparks. Every strike dug deeper into the ground, clawing toward flesh and bone. The storm was not wild, it was hunting, deliberate, merciless. Its hunger was unending, its fire searching for blood to consume. The herd scattered slightly, instincts pulling them but unity binding still. Every flash felt aimed, seeking one more life to end in smoke. Tusks vibrated with charge, shuddering against hides soaked in rain. Some elephants screamed in terror, bodies jerking from shocks. Others stood frozen, too afraid to move, waiting for the blow. The air grew heavy, electricity crawling like insects over skin. Every breath stung, lungs filled with sparks, burning with fire unseen. The herd pressed together tighter, knowing distance meant death. Yet the storm found paths within them, leaping from body to body. It burned hair, seared hides, scarred tusks with blackened marks. Its hunger was endless, its fire insatiable, its will undeniable. And in every strike, the herd knew the storm sought their end. Lightning did not fall blindly, it fell with purpose, with hunger. 17. The ground trembles, the earth itself quaked beneath the storm's endless weight. Mud shook, puddles rippled, trees bent to breaking in the gale. The elephants felt the trembling, their feet sinking deeper each second. The ground seemed alive, shifting, buckling, pulling them downward. Every rumble echoed through the soil, rattling tusks, shaking hides. The herd shifted uneasily, aware the land betrayed them too. Water rose higher around their legs, streams turning into rivers. Calves stumbled, dragged by mud, lifted desperately by mothers. The land had become a trap, pulling them lower, slower, weaker. Each tremor struck like a drum, the ground itself joining thunder. The elephants swayed, their footing slipping, balance breaking. Even giants could not fight against a world that shook beneath. The storm above and the trembling below became one torment. No ground felt safe, no step secure, only sinking, drowning earth. The herd trumpeted, cries lost, swallowed by trembling mud. Some collapsed again, trapped in pits, unable to rise again. Others pulled, tugged, dragging kin upward against suction. The ground became quicksand, a grave waiting for giants. And still the storm pressed, making the earth their executioner. The trembling never stopped, it only grew stronger with each roar. 18. The silent ones through the chaos, some stood still, silent, unmoving against the storm. Their eyes were blank, lifeless, bodies frozen as if stone in rain. The living moved around them, but these giants no longer fought. Death had claimed them without sound, quiet, cold, eternal. Tusks gleamed white against dark hides now slumped in mud. Their silence screamed louder than any trumpet of despair. Calves pressed against them, calling, unaware they were gone. The herd felt the weight, realizing more had fallen unseen. The silent ones became monuments in the storm, grave markers. Rain washed over their stillness, polishing tusks like marble. Thunder rolled, but they did not move, did not answer. Lightning flashed, but they did not flinch, did not cry. They had given all strength, their battle ending without sound. The herd grew smaller, their shadows fewer, their grief heavier. The silent ones became memory before the storm even ended. Their stillness carved despair deeper into every survivor's heart. The living leaned against them, seeking support, finding only death. The storm cared nothing, it raged above, blind to their stillness. And in silence, giants fell, leaving echoes swallowed by thunder. 19. Echoes of the fallen, the herd's trumpets now carried not strength, but grief's hollow song. Every cry echoed the voices of those gone, carried in storm's wind. The calf's shrieks repeated louder, mixing with mother's broken tones. Each trumpet rose like smoke, a memory pulled into thunder's roar. The storm mocked them, repeating their voices back in twisted echoes. Every sound felt stolen, returned warped, darker, crueler. The elephants cried louder, but the storm swallowed their grief whole. Even the air carried memory, whispers of the fallen in each gust. The herd staggered beneath the weight of voices haunting them. The matriarch's call echoed faint, though she was silent forever. The dead seemed alive in sound, answering from the void above. Survivors shuddered, their ears twitching to voices not real. Each call a reminder, each echo a knife of memory's edge. They trumpeted louder, trying to rise above the storm's mimicry. But the echoes only grew louder, surrounding them, consuming them. The living felt the dead among them, walking in sound, unseen. The cries became endless, stretching into the night without pause. Every trumpet carved grief deeper, spreading sorrow wider. The storm had stolen even their voices, turning them into ghosts. And the echoes of the fallen would haunt forever those who lived. 20. The night devours all, the night swallowed herd and storm, one endless void of fire and shadow. The elephants moved no more, only shapes trembling in black rain. The fallen lay still, their bodies merging with mud and water. The survivors stood broken, silent, waiting for the end to come. Lightning flashed one last time, carving death's mark on the land. Thunder boomed as if closing the heavens, final, heavy, eternal. The storm began to fade, its hunger satisfied, its wrath spent. But its ruin remained, painted across the field in ash and blood. The calves still cried, weaker now, their voices fading in silence. The mothers leaned against one another, hollowed by grief. The giants who once ruled the savannah had been humbled. The sky itself had struck them down, devouring their strength. The land smelled of smoke, blood, and rain, a grave unending. The silence that followed was heavier than thunder itself. Every survivor knew the night had claimed their kin forever. No dawn could erase the memory carved in lightning's fire. The herd stood fewer, smaller, shadows of what they had been. The night devoured their pride, their unity, their very heart. And in that black silence, the tragedy of giants was complete. The night devoured all, leaving only echoes and ashes behind. The death of an entire herd to a single lightning strike is a story etched in the history of wildlife loss. It reminds humanity that no matter how powerful we imagine ourselves, nature always holds the final word. Elephants that once roamed proud and free were reduced to silence in just a flash from the sky above them. Such events highlight the importance of studying and preparing for the impacts of climate and weather change. Wildlife conservation is not only about saving animals from people but also from disasters beyond control. This tragedy should push us to cherish life and create safer sanctuaries where nature can still thrive freely. Every elephant lost was not just an animal but a guardian of forests and ecosystems now left incomplete. Their story is a wake-up call urging humanity to act with urgency and respect for every living being. Do not forget to like and subscribe if you want more real wildlife stories that reveal nature's true power. Thank you for watching and honoring the memory of these giants struck down in a single storm of fate.